All right, well, I think we'll get going here. For those of you who are joining us and weren't with us last time, I'm Johanna Murray. I'm the Extension Coordinator here at Peace Country Beef and Forage Association. We are a applied research association based out of Fairview, Alberta. And thank you very much for joining us for our second organic webinar on with presentations from Organic Alberta and Dave Thompson on getting certified. So for those of you who don't know about Peace Country Beef and Forage Association, we're a producer-run research group that do applied research in the Peace Country and provide that information to our members through events, publications, and so on. If you'd like to get in touch with us after the webinar is over with suggestions for events or projects, or even just curious about what we do, you can visit our website at peacecountrybeef.ca, or you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. All of our contact information is there. So a bit of housekeeping before we get going. If you have any questions, we've got a Q&A box here that you can use to type in your question. If you've got something a little more complicated, you want to actually use your voice to ask the question, you can use your raise hand button, and when I see it, I will let the speakers know, and I will unmute you so you can ask your question with your mic. If you're having any issues with the audio quality, there is an option to use to call in with your phone and use your phone audio. Just letting you know that's an option. The webinar should run about an hour. If you miss anything, we will be sending out the recording early next week on Monday or Tuesday. So I think that's all I have. So without further ado, I will hand it over to Iris from Organic Alberta. She's got a quick presentation. After that, if you've got any questions for her, we'll answer those, and then go to Frank. And then from there, we'll go to Dave Thompson. We've also got, I should mention, we've got Marianne Cron, who works with me at PCBFA. On the call, we've also got Marge and Cody Sander, or Marge, whose name I can't pronounce because I have terrible French pronunciation. Yeah, there we go. And we also have Cody Sander from OCIA and ProCert. They presented last week, but they're also on the call today. So yeah, I will let Iris take it away.
Okay, great. Thanks, Joanna. So I'm just going to share my screen, and you can let me know if it works. So can everyone, you can see the presentation? It's good? Okay, we're good to go. Okay, great. Thanks. Yeah, I've done a few of these this week with some other folks, and yeah, there always seems to be something that pops up. So I'm glad that this has just shown up on your screens. So thank you so much to the Peace Country Beef and Forage Association for inviting Organic Alberta and for me to speak. I'm really excited about this series that you've planned and very excited to be part of it. So thank you. So as Johanna said, I'm with Organic Alberta. I'm based out of Edmonton. It's a very nice sunny day here in Edmonton. Not sure where everyone else is right now, but we're supposedly getting some snow later, but we'll see. It's very nice and beautiful right now. Yeah, so maybe some of you folks are already familiar with Organic Alberta and what we do, but I'm just gonna go over that, who we are as an organization, and some of the resources and work that we do. So at Organic Alberta, our mission is to represent, support, and grow Alberta's entire organic industry. We are member driven, and our members are right across the province. yeah, so quickly, just what the agenda for what I'm going to go over is what we do, our programs, some stats to give you an idea of what organics looks like right now in Alberta, our resources, and our contact information. So yeah, so in terms of giving you an idea of where we're at with organic growers in Alberta right now, you can see that there's a general trend that we are seeing more and more growers every year. So definitely in the past 5 or 6 years, we've seen a nice amount of growth. Back in 2015, we had 439 growers, and now we're up to 663 in 2018. Probably one thing to point out to you is that this data is from the summer of 2018. The way that we collect our stats, we're usually 1 year behind. So currently we're working on our data from 2019, and we'll have that available in a few months. But what it showed was a general trend of back in 2018 that we're seeing that growth. And I would guess that would probably have continued into 2019. Either we would have maintained that number or possibly grown, but I guess we'll see when we get those numbers. And the growth in Alberta kind of generally reflects the growth that we're seeing across the country and across the prairies of more acres every year. On the prairies, we have 1.8 million certified organic acres, and about 500,000 of those are here in Alberta. Majority of the growers here in Alberta who are organic certified are cereal grain growers. So mostly they grow oats, wheat, and then followed by barley. We also have quite a bit of pea growing, and we've seen an increase in that over the last little while. And we also have 49 beef operations in Alberta that are certified. And if you take a look at the map on the right, you can see the way that they're spread out throughout the province. So you can see that we have a very large chunk of those organic growers up in the Mackenzie County, right around the Lacrete area. We have just under half of them are up there, and then the rest are spread out throughout the province. In terms of what we do at Organic Alberta and what our goals are, if you look to the left, you see our strategic directions. And so one of them is working on strong standards and regulations. This is something that's really important to the industry, because in order to have consumer confidence in our products, we need to have strong standards and regulations that farmers are following. And so about a year ago was when Alberta implemented the organic regulation here in Alberta. So previous to that, we had a federal regulation, but we didn't have one that was specific to Alberta. So now anything that is labeled organic within Alberta must follow the federal standards and regulation. And I think you heard a little bit more about that last week at the first webinar that was put on about standards and regulations. Another thing that we're doing is supporting the growth in the organic value chain. So making sure that the entire value chain is growing as we're seeing more farmers come on board. We are also focusing on soil health and product quality, looking at marketing and education, and also looking at enhancing our own organizational capacity so that we can keep working and serving members. So these are some of the activities that we do. We usually have 2 conferences a year. We had our first one this year in January. Unfortunately, we had to cancel the one that we're planning for Lacrete. So we usually have a central conference that happens, and then we have a northern conference as well, just because we have so many growers up in the Mackenzie County. It actually would have been today. It would have been yesterday and today that it would have been happening. So it's canceled, but we'll find a way to connect to keep connecting with folks. We also have monthly e-updates that go out to all of our members. We have 4 magazines that go out to all of our members electronically, but there's also a hard copy available. We have a website, organicalberta.org, where a lot of the things that I'm talking about, you'll be able to find on there. And we're also on social media if any of you folks like to follow along that way. In terms of the programs that we currently have, we have a few different ones. I'll just go over them really quickly. If anyone has any interest in any one of them in particular, you can go on our website and learn a little bit more. And you can also, I'll have contact information at the end. You can get in touch with me and I can give you more information if you'd like to know more. So one of our programs is a public trust program where we are educating the public about what is organic. So when you see that label and it says organic, what does that mean for you as a consumer? What does it mean in terms of production? We also have a soil quality project where we're working together with farmers to support them in their goal of increasing soil quality on the farm. We have a really great website called Pivot and Grow, which I'll go into more detail in a little bit actually, because it's a really great resource, especially for those folks who are interested in in going into organics if it's new to you. We also have the Mackenzie County Organic Success Program. So as I've mentioned, we have quite a lot of the growers in Alberta, organic growers, are up in the Mackenzie County. So we have a program that's specifically tailored to them. We've been working with Julie Bernier, who's an agronomist, who's been rolling out that program, putting on workshops, providing agronomy support, usually putting on the conference. We also have a program called Young Agrarians. This is a program that actually, it started in BC, and then one of the employees at Organic Alberta, Dana Penrice, she brought it over to Alberta because it's a program that's geared towards young and new farmers. So it's geared towards people who are just starting out in farming. And they do a really great job of convening all of these folks who are just starting out with farming and getting them to network with each other and building the skills that they need to be able to be successful farmers. And then we also have the Bauta Family Initiative on Canadian Seed Security. So this is a national program. I work as the prairie coordinator for this national program, and the focus there is on increasing and creating biodiversity in seeds. So in particular, maybe one that you folks might be interested in is a participatory breeding program. We have several growers in Alberta who are working together with the University of Manitoba on a breeding program, breeding wheat and oats for organic production. In terms of the resources that we have available to all of you folks, so we have the website, so www.organicalberta.org. On there you can find, we have an online bookstore, so we have a lot of really great books that are kind of, like if you're just starting out in organics, there's a lot of really good kind of basic information there. So it would be, those would be the kind of books you might want to be reading when you're starting out. We also have a business-to-business directory. So this is where both farmers and buyers can post their information. Farmers can list what they have available to sell, and buyers can list who they are and what they're looking for. I was asked to speak a little bit about marketing, and unfortunately I don't feel like there's kind of enough time to go into that into any great detail, and also it's not something that I am personally that strong on. But if people do have marketing related questions, you could definitely get in touch and look at some of these resources and see what kind of questions there are. But the business-to-business directory is something that's kind of geared towards helping marketing, and hopefully I think maybe Frank will talk a little bit about that when it comes to him, but we'll see. And we also have the Get the Facts. That was the information that was geared more towards consumers. So I wanted to just focus a little bit on the Pivot and Grow website, so pivotandgrow.com. There's just a lot of really good information on there, agronomy-wise, marketing-wise. So again, if you are starting, or even if you're currently an organic farmer and you're looking for more resources, there's just a lot on there in terms of the kind of like those typical questions that organic farmers are frequently asking about weed management, soil fertility, crop planning, and marketing. In particular, there is a tool on there called the Green Manure Toolkit. If you find that on the website, it's a toolkit that's specifically geared towards helping farmers manage their green manures. Green manures are like an absolute essential part of an organic system, and so it's very important to be able to manage that year so that you're optimizing your fertility, you're optimizing your weed management. So in this particular toolkit, it walks you through how to make the decision making when it comes to green manures. So that's a particular favorite of mine, so I'd recommend you go look at that. We also have a 1-800 number. You can call that number and leave a question on there, and you would get a call back in a couple of days from an expert. For those of you who are into podcasts, we also have a podcast on there. So last year we covered some basic information. There's one on there about marketing. We talked about crop rotation. We talked about soil sampling. So if anyone's into podcasts, or you haven't gotten into podcasts yet, I think now's the time. And in particular, still on the Pivot and Grow website, there is a starter kit that's very much geared towards those farmers who are interested in getting into organic farming. And in the starter kit, you can find information about certification, about the standards, about marketing, and about agronomy. So it's all there in one place. So I would encourage you to look at that. I think it's a really good starting point. Yeah, and I guess that's it in terms of the resources and information that I wanted to share with you. This is our contact information. If you have any questions about anything that I shared with you in terms of programs or any other questions that you have, you can email info organicalberta.org, and you can ask your questions there, and you can ask for Iris if you have any questions, or we'll see anyone can answer your question. And that is it for me. That's my last slide.
Awesome, thank you, Iris. If you've got any questions for Iris, you can drop them in the Q&A. I think you're staying on the call, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so if you don't get your question typed up quite quick enough, we can answer them later in the call. And I believe next up is Frank. Just before he goes, I'm going to launch our poll just to kind of, it's just a quick, what kind of producer are you? If you want to drop your answers in there, I will let Dave know before we start his presentation so he knows who he's talking to for certification. So yeah, I think Frank, you're up.
Okay, can everybody hear me? Is that okay? Okay then. So I'm an organic producer. I farm about an hour west of Edmonton. We've got 700 acres in our organic plan at the moment. We've been at it now for about 7 years. So I'm still learning an awful lot, but I was asked by Organic Alberta if I'd participate. So here I am. So anyway, we got into organics after being a small dairy farm. We were looking for something different. I read a couple of books by Joel Salatin and thought, great, this is the way we're going to make money, is by direct marketing everything. And then learned a lot of very hard lessons very quickly. And actually, that's kind of what I'm focusing on here, is some ideas about marketing organic products. Both livestock, I don't know much about marketing grain, but I'm going to have a crack at it anyway. As far as livestock goes, we heard there's only 49 certified organic producers of cattle in the province. And to be quite honest, I feel a lot of organic cattle just end up going through the regular system because unless it's direct marketed, you probably don't have a lot of options. That doesn't mean you shouldn't have certified cattle or any other livestock. I think it has to be sort of part of your concept of organics, but there just aren't a lot of large buyers. Maybe, you know, you're just going to have to track them down. It's not as easy as just taking them to the auction market. Who knows, maybe A&W will manage to get some of these cattle into their system. Your other problems, I guess, would be just making them fit. It's a little bit different concept than regular cattle, but I was thinking about it, and we've got a lot of other commodities, cattle included, that have their certification programs. And being certified organic is really just another certification program. And if anybody asks me about it, we are the original certification program. And I think that's something that's quite significant. But for us, most of ours is direct marketed. So I don't know how that's going to affect your plans. I think it's important that we have livestock to put on the land, because that's part of what organics is about, I think. In terms of marketing crops, I would say that your rotation has a bigger influence on your marketing plans than actually any particular movement in a market one way or another, because you're looking 6, 7, 8 years out when you're planning that rotation. And just as importantly, you're having to plan your seed supply, because you can't just run necessarily, because the price of barley went up, just run out and buy some barley seed to replace wheat in your rotation. So you need to look further ahead than often we would if we're just doing, you know, a 3-year canola, peas, wheat type of thing, and you can just run to the seed plant, run to your retailer. Pardon me? Okay, anyway, was someone asking a question just then?
I don't think so. I think we just had a mic issue there.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and that's another part, I guess, would be it, and it falls back on marketing, is you're looking at saving a lot of your own seed. So I don't know. I think one thing that we need to remember as organic producers would be, it doesn't matter if you're raising cattle, if you're raising peas, cereal grains, you're still a producer within the bigger system. Your checkoffs still go to those same commodity marketing organizations that everybody else does. And so I think it's important that we remain active in those organizations to make sure that our voice is heard, because as we've seen, more and more of the funding for research, etc., will be coming through those channels. So we need to make sure that, you know, as organic producers, they know that we are still producers, whether or not we choose a different stream. And I guess I'm just going to finish off, because this whole thing was about organic no-till in the beginning. And I'd like to leave you with the idea that if I've got 3 or 4 years of forages because of my livestock in my rotation, doesn't that make me in a 6-year rotation like I'm 50% no-till? I don't know. It's just a thought that I wanted to throw out there. And other than that, I'm just going to leave it. And if people want to ask some questions or put anything down, I'll do my best to answer.
Awesome. Thank you, Frank. Does anybody have any questions? I don't see any at the moment. I'll look at our poll first. I see we've got quite a few. We've got either grain or mixed production is kind of what I'm seeing in the poll. Not a lot of organic livestock. There's an agribusiness representative, and there's a couple of people who say they're just interested in food production. So thanks everybody for responding. We'll end that poll. And I see there's still no Q&A questions, so I think, Dave, if you're ready to go, we will let you present next.
Sure, I'm ready.
Okay.
Can everybody see?
You haven't started sharing your presentation yet, so can't see that.
Okay, let's give me a second.
There it is.
So thanks to the History Project Association for inviting me to participate in this webinar. My name is Dave Thompson, as I said before, and I will be this time talk about I made a few presentations prior to this under the theme of organic certification for producers.
Dave,
Iris,
can you hear?
It's very choppy.
Yeah.
If it continues that way, I know that one thing that we did was that we had the person just like stay on here presentation wise and then call in, and that was clear.
Right. Dave, when you first set up your
How do you want it to call it?
When you first set up your audio, there's if you go down to your little mic icon and hit the arrow, there's an option to switch to phone audio, which should give you some numbers to call in. And I think your audio will be much better if you do that, because we were having trouble hearing you.
Let me just go back to the that's not good. Going to call in.
Yeah, it'll open a dialog there if you say phone audio, and there will be some numbers you can call. You can change it from, I think it defaults to US numbers, but you can change it to Canadian numbers, and then there's a meeting ID and a participant ID under the numbers there.
Okay, so go to the end of the, okay.
To everybody on the call, apologies for the technical difficulties. We'll probably edit them out for the recording.
Are you hearing me clearer now?
That's better. Have you
Yes,
called in?
my video was down.
It's not a lot better, but
No,
it's a
I'm
little
trying
bit
to
better.
call in, but I'm not.
Huh.
I was trying to call in from the numbers from what was sent to me from Katie. Those numbers are the right ones?
It should be, yep. Yeah, you'll hit that button and it'll give you a dialog, and yeah, it'll just say pick an option. And you can change the little flag from US to Canadian if you like. And then it should give you a meeting ID and a participant ID, and you can just enter them when you prompted, when it prompts you.
Yeah, but it's asking for a host key.
Sorry?
It was asking me for a host key.
Okay. Try and enter your participant ID. If that doesn't work, we will call that good, and we'll just go forward from where we've got, I guess.
I hope you can hear me because it's not out here. Not sure why.
Yeah, we really can't hear you. It's very choppy. It's very hard to understand.
Okay, so let me just do this one more time. So go back to the end of Zoom. I was trying to call him, but it's
Dave,
yeah.
if that's not working, I will just call you and set up my phone by my mic, and we'll just try that.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay.
Are you hearing me now?
Yeah, that's much better.
You
Okay.
hear me now?
Just a moment.
Sure.
Okay. You need to do something because we're having feedback. Yeah, that's better. Okay. Try it.
Yeah, I'll just do my
Yep. There.
I think Dave has to turn down the volume.
That's a bit much better now, correct?
Yeah. Can you guys hear?
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. We will do that. Go ahead, Dave.
Let's share, okay, my screen again.
Your screen is shared.
Is it good now?
Yeah. So I think all you have to do is hit your presentation button and you're good to go.
Okay, sorry about that, guys. Technical difficulties beyond our control right now. But I'll try to do my best with the phone at my ear. As I was saying earlier, I thank the Peace Country Beef and Forest Association for inviting me to participate in this webinar. And I'll just go through it as quickly as possible. The key points I want to talk about today are what is organic certification. I know The panelists last week went through that, but I just want to go through a few little stuff there. Organic process, organic inspector, day of the inspection, it should be, sorry, not inspector. Field inspection, inspection audits, organic production standards, organic permitted subset list, and organic production, the organic production documents. Okay, so what is organic certification? Organic certification is a service provided by independent third-party certification bodies that include application, inspection, and review of your organic farm results in approval to sell your products as certified organic. There are various different streams that you can go through different countries lists, as you can see on your right-hand side. So we have the Canadian organic regime, we have the NOPE from the US, we have the European Union, the Japanese agricultural, and then you have the Quebec and the Swiss, bio-Swiss they call it. So what is certification process? So basically the certification process has 5 parts to it. You have the registration, verification, inspection, review, and decision, which is done by the certification bodies. So first you fill out registration, you register as a participant to be part of this, to be an organic. And then you send that document into your certifying body, whichever certifying body you choose. And from there, the certifying body will contact an inspector that does the inspections. The inspector does the inspection and send the documents back to the certifying body, which does a review, and then they are the ones that make a decision to see if you're qualified, or your land or animals or your processing entity is qualified as for organic production. So inspector, and this is what I will probably concentrate most of my presentation on, the inspection process, a few agronomy tips throughout, and we'll conclude with a few of the documents that you need to know as an organic producer. So an inspector normally is a trained professional who examines the process of organic angling by a business seeking organic certification. Inspector can be a trained person through the IOIA or from the CBs. They should have some organic knowledge or some form of organic training, preferably university programs like a degree or similar, and most of all on-the-job training. So my name, as I said before, is Dave Thompson. I'm organic inspector. I've been inspecting since 2014, I think. My background is in agronomy studies. I have a university degree in agronomy engineering and also a master's degree in animal science. I spent most of my time during university doing soil science, and I have lots of experience in vermiculture production or organic production per se. I have an extensive livestock background and so on in processing. I also did a few courses through the IOIA on organic inspections, crop processing, and animal production. And I also will be doing a few more courses through the IOIA as time goes by. I spend a lot of time doing management skills, independent work, meeting with people and helping producers to be who they are. Why do I have to get certified? That's one of the biggest questions that is asked by producers all over. And one of the reason why you need to get certified if you want to sell organic products is because you don't want to get into trouble. That's what I always tell them. So if you intend to market, label, sell, or otherwise represent product as organic for interprovincial sale or export, yes, you need to get certified. I should add earlier that I have done close to about 1,000 inspections in crops, livestock, processing, and also complex processing over the last 6 to 7 years. So I have a wide range of skills in working as an organic inspector. So we're going to shift topics right now from me to the inspector himself, and I'll just give you typically what I do when I go out to do inspections. So the first thing that happens is I receive a contact from the inspector, from the certifying bodies, asking me if I can do inspection. The documents are sent to me, and I try to set up a meeting or contact the client. Once a meeting date is agreed upon, we set aside that day for inspection. On the day of inspection, what happens is I normally start off with a brief meeting, introducing myself, introducing the client to what my process is and how I go about doing inspection. For me personally, I like to do the practical part of the inspection first before the theoretical part. The theoretical part is going through the documents and stuff like that. Because I already have an idea what the documentation that was sent in to the certifying bodies, I have an idea of how I will conduct that inspection. Typical inspection normally lasts between 3 to 4 hours, and that is dependent on how far the fields are. If we're talking about grain farming, if we're talking about animal production, where the animals are located, and also the fields that is relevant to that operation. Also, it depends on if we have a split operation in terms of animals and grain or pasture, or if we have other entities that's a part of the operation. Now, one of the other questions that is always asked by potential clients or clients is, how do I know if my land is eligible for organics? I would imagine that the certified bodies that discussed at the last meeting last week, they would have gone through this slide about 36 months if it's the first time that you were considering going into organic, if there is a prohibited substance that was used just at the time you were considering going into organic production. Now, if you are not sure, or if it's rented land, or if it's land not previously owned by you and you want to put it into production, one of the things that you need to do is get a letter of approval from the landowner. They call it a prior land use affidavit. And this is just an example from the certifying body of what it looks like. It shows the legal land description, the farm name, size, crops that was there. Most importantly, that the client make sure they put on this all the substances that were used on that field that was prohibited. For example, fertilizers, pesticides, etc. The other thing, when we go off to the fields or to check the animals or through the processing plant, we like to look for different environmental factors that might affect your production. So we talk about biodiversity, equipment, grain bins, uh, in the area of cattle production, and even on some grain production, treated wood posts. We look for those, especially in greenhouses. The other thing that we look for is buffer zones. Now, this is always a contentious thing when we are doing inspections, because everybody have a different way of interpreting what a buffer zone is or where it should be. Examples of buffer zones could be windbreaks, a ditch, could be trees, but the most contentious issue of the buffer zone is the distance between the organic land and the adjacent land. According to the manual or the core, the distance between organic land and the conventional or the other adjacent land should be at a minimum of 8 meters. There's always some confusion with producers who say, oh, 25 meters, 25 feet is enough. No, 8 meters is about 26 point, 7 feet. So we have to look out for things like those when we're doing inspection. And these are some examples here of different type of buffers that can be. You could see the lower part ditches, could see other crops, could see shelter breaks or windbreaks, etc. The other thing that we look for is if the operator is doing split production and parallel production. A split production is basically a producer can be doing organic crop production and also animal production at the same time that is not organic. Also, it could be some producers are doing both organic and also non-organic production. Now, the problem that we run into at times, some guys are doing what they call parallel production, where they'll grow the same crop, the same variety, but some organic and some non-organic, and that is where sometimes we end up into a little bit of problems. And that is very important that organic producers or anyone going into organic production should know that this is not necessarily prohibited. This is actually prohibited. So if you're going into organic productions, you want to make sure that you don't go down that road unless you get permission from your certifying bodies to make sure that you can do such thing. The other area that I come upon as an organic inspector is propagation material. That is seeds that is used in organic production. If we should go ahead and follow the permitted substance list, and also according to the core manual, organic seeds is the seed of choice for production. Now, there are some exemptions, and this should normally be sent in advance to the certifying bodies to state that, you know what, I can't find X seeds, and I really would love to produce this. Now, before you do that, normally you should go ahead and try to make contacts with various people who you want to get these seeds from. And then after that, if you don't find that, one of the best things you can do is purchase certified seeds and also get a non-GMO affidavit to state that these seeds are not affected by GMO production. An example of that is this diagram. You can see here this document that's saying commercially available seed record. They call it a seed search, and it should be signed off by you, the client, to make sure that you are in compliance with the manual itself. This is also another document that is very important. I can't emphasize how important this document is. I go to inspections and I see guys just say they write down seed search and don't have the non-GMO affidavit, which is really important because it will say, will give the certified bodies the assurance that the seed that you're using in your production, that it is not contaminated in any form by any form of non-GMO substance. Practice soil fertility and crop nutrient management is another area in which is always a bugger for us as inspectors. One of the biggest challenge that I find is guys keep on asking us questions of what should we do, how we should do. I am sure Iris talked about this earlier, that there's various different areas in Organic Alberta that they have documents that they can help you on this. But one of the things that we look for is one of the questions that is asked, am I organic because I use nothing? And I think that's a misconception. Can you recommend an organic pesticide to be used? And that in itself or a fertilizer, and that's also a misconception that you can't use fertilizer, organic fertilizer or organic pesticide. One of the things I try to tell clients or potential clients is that they should do their homework when they come onto this. Because one of the things, especially in some of the areas that I do inspections, is I find that neighbors are always looking at their neighbor and seeing them spraying or applying some form of chemical, and then they ask a question, he could never be organic because he's spraying. And for me, that's also a big misconception for most guys. One of the things I would say to guys is, any products you are using, please send the information into your certifying bodies, especially prior to using them. If you did a soil test, if you did if you're planning on purchasing any form of fertilizer, please send that documentation, everything into your certifying bodies before. Because as an inspector, when I come out, I'm looking for those documents. Make sure you have a copy at home or in your file, so that when I come and I ask questions, so okay, did you use any inputs? What kind of inputs did you use? Do you have labels? Why did you use these inputs? Those documents are already there, so the inspector can verify that these documents are legit. So these are some photos of some guys while I was, a few of them are from guys that I've been working with in gardens. Some of them are cattle guys, some applying, I think that was manure, various fields. Some of the different ways that people fertilize, not necessarily in Canada, but these are some photos for organic use of some fertilizers. One of the things that I think Frank talked about earlier, and which is really stressing organic production, is crop rotation. This is one of the challenges that modern agriculture face, and especially in organic productions, because of time and because of finances. Most guys tend to go to a 2-crop rotation. You will get away with that in conventional agriculture, but you won't necessarily get away with that in organic production. And as Frank said earlier, you should think before time, at least a 6-year rotation will help to do some of the best jobs that you expect from your nutrient management program by including other crops such as green manure, as Iris mentioned earlier, and various different crops over a period of time. As an inspector, I go through all the documents to make sure that crop rotation is practiced. If it's not practiced, I highlight it and also make comments to the certifying bodies that these things we need to make sure that the clients understand why it is important to do crop rotation or crop rotation. Crop, pest, disease, and weed management. One of the things that I do as an inspector, I tend to walk fields. Not only stay at the side of the field and look in, but I tend to walk fields because sometimes when we do the audit, at the end of the day, we like to have an idea of what the crop is doing. I normally make notes on what disease I see in the field. It is important that a client have an idea what's going on in his field. At times, clients will ask me the question, do you think I should, plow this field under because it looks too weedy? Or do you think this is a disease or not? Can I spray? Should I spray or should I not spray? Well, one of the things that I always say to the clients is, if you think you have to use a substance, make sure you check the permitted substance list document, especially table 3. It will give you an idea of what you can use in organic production. If you're not sure, call your certifying body and ask them what you can do. In case of weed management, it's all about crop rotation, and it's all about managing your crops during the different times during the season when you can mechanically, using cultural methods or mechanical techniques. Won't talk much about processing or livestock. In the case of livestock, any vaccines, anything that you do, please contact your certifying bodies and make sure you have it documented so that when the inspector comes, you will have that document so he can do his audit. So the inspection audit process. So after doing all the checks, of the bins, of the equipment, of the fields, of the animal, of the processing plant, I normally go into the client's area or his house or outside or somewhere where we can start looking over the documents. This is a time where all the questions normally come. I do an overview of the farm operation, then the farm organic system plan, which is the document that the operator sends into the certifying bodies. I make sure they have a copy of that so we can go through it point by point to make sure that everything that was said there is correct. For example, we look over the fields, we look at the field maps, we look at the field history, we look at the seed, the labels, we look at the prior land use affidavit if needed, the non-GMO affidavit is needed, the dates and rates of inputs, and we go over documentation on the equipment, the transportation in terms of transportation from the field to the yard, from the yard to the grain mill or to market and back, and the storage information. So they call it harvest records or bin records. We look at all those documents. It is very important that clients keep all their data. They track everything. Everything. If you buy seeds, you should have that information. If you buy, if you make a transport from one place, from point A on the farm to point B on the farm, from the grain field to the bins, all that information is needed so that we can do a proper audit. There's two audits that we do as inspectors. We do an audit for, they call it traceability audit, and a balance audit. Balance audit has to do with grain coming in from the field into the bin or from outside into the bin, whether it's seeds coming in for seeding or for purchase for seeding, or grain coming from the field into the bin. We also do an audit on sales. Now, normally we don't tell the client which one of the audits we're going to do. We normally do both audits, but we don't tell them which one of the grain that we will be using. So it is very important for the client to make sure that all his information is there for us as inspector, that we can choose any one grain, any one animal or group of animals, to make sure that we can get the proper trace from seed right back, from the grain sold right back to the seed seeded. So we talk about copies of receipts and invoices from the grain, from the grain terminals, also from the seed purchase for inventory. We need all of those invoices so that we can trace back everything. This is also the time when we do all the updates and the edits. For example, a client may have sent in his document in February, but come April, he realized that his neighbor decided that he's going out of production and he wants to take on his field. Now, all that transaction and all that information, like prior land use history and all of those things, will need all of that information at that time of inspection if they have not sent that in previously to the certifying bodies. If they make changes in seed let's say crop to be planted, we need that information as inspectors so that we can update the file that has been sent in if it was not already updated prior to us getting there. If they made any changes in the year, let's say for example, they seeded barley and all of a sudden it was too dry or too weedy prior to the inspection and they decided that they want to plow it under, all those changes need to be made in the document. If not, it should be done at the time of inspection. So those are different things that we hope that clients will do prior to the inspection, or let the inspector know so he can update the documents. So there are two documents, and as I said, I've done over 1,000 inspections since 2013, 2014 until recently. And there's two documents that is very important for the producer to know and have. The first one is the Organic Production Standard. The latest one was amended in March 2018. This is the document that will help you as producers to know the rules of organic production as it's stated in Canada. I normally quote from this whenever I'm sending my document into the certified bodies, and also it's a guide for myself when doing organic production to know if you're in line with what should be. The other document that is very important also, and I don't have the updated one here, is the Organic Permitted Substance List. Normally this document, and the latest one is amended, I think is 2018, and I'm sorry I don't have it right here. But what happened, this document is a document that you will use to know which substance, fertilizer, etc. would be needed for any form of organic production, whether it's crop production, animal production in terms of vaccine, etc., or processing, whatever you can use to wash down your, processing area, etc. These are the documents that normally, to be honest, most producers don't even look at. And some of the certifying bodies, one of the questions on our list that we have to answer is, do the producer have these documents? And most time guys don't. They said, oh, it's on my phone, but they don't normally visit it. Lots of your headache as organic producers, especially if you're just going into organic production, will be solved by reading through these documents. And so I would stress as an inspector that if you have these documents, please consult them, because they will help you to navigate some of the areas that is always of a problem or concern for organic production. If you don't see what you're looking for in that, then you can either consult an organic agronomist like myself. Firstly, your certified bodies to which you're registered to, and also you can ask questions to your inspector. The other thing I will stress is that organic inspection is done every year. And at times the certifying body will ask us as inspector if we can go back and do a surprise or an unannounced inspection. And most times when we are sent out to do that unannounced inspection, is because there's sometimes some little inky thing that goes on. And at that time, we always just show up and do it. I know a lot of farmers don't like it. I've done several up to last year. But it's a way just to make sure that people are following the rules. And I am sure most certifying bodies will say this prior to you being an organic client. One last thing I want to say before I end is I love inspecting. It's really a nice thing. But when I go out or organic inspectors go out to inspect, we are there to inspect, we're not there to consult. And most times people or clients are, see us as a guinea pig, as we will say in our country, to get information or draw information. When I go out to inspect, I try to keep to a strict rule, even though I'm an organic consultant or agronomist. I tend to do inspection and inspection only. The inspectors generally have a tight schedule to get things done, especially for crop producers. We have basically from the seed is in the ground right until about harvest to get things done. Most times we schedule 2 or 3 inspections in a day depending on the distance. Please, as clients or prospective clients, please understand that we really don't have the time for long talking about stuff. We are just there to be the eyes and ears for the certified bodies, and we write down exactly what is said. So if there's something that is incorrect that needs to be corrected, please get it done prior to us getting there or during the time, so that we have a smooth inspection. The other thing is, if there are additional stuff that needs to be done, we prefer to know that prior to we coming out to the inspection, because there are several times that I have to be delaying other inspections because there's something that came up or other stuff that is of interest for us as inspectors. The other thing is, if you're doing split or parallel inspection, production, please don't hide that from the inspector. We would like to know so that we can verify that you guys are not cheating the system, that you're not doing things that you should not do. Because, you know, if the certifying body finds out another way, then that could be problems for you as clients. And I just want to end by saying this job as being of being an inspector is really a very tedious job. It's really exciting, but for it to go on smoothly for us as inspectors, all of us have to cooperate, both the CBs and the clients, and if everything works out well, all will be good. Any questions?
We do have a question here. Pierre Filion wants to know if you have any idea how inspection will happen this year with the COVID-19 situation.
That's a good question. I have been in touch with the IOIA, and they're having a hell of a time over in the States on how to do it. Personally speaking, I personally will go out and do inspection if I'm, you know, call up to do it. It's not a problem for me on my side. It's still depending on the certifying bodies what they want to do. But I am lined up to do inspections, and if I have to go out and do it, I will. One thing I will caution guys whenever I have to contact them, and I have a bunch of inspections lined up now, is I will definitely ask them, for example, as an inspector, if there's anybody sick in their household and stuff like that. The other thing I will do or will be doing is instead of jumping in a vehicle with the client like I normally do, I will prefer drive my vehicle and they will drive their vehicles to the fields, and then we'll do any communication via telephone, and I will step out in the field instead of them with me and do my stuff. The same thing with animals and in a processing plant, depending on what's going on in that area, I will do the same thing. At the meeting site, which normally is in the house, I would opt to be outside in an open environment where we can discuss the documents and stuff. So I am still open to going out to do inspection. It's just that I will have various protocol that I will walk through with the clients prior to getting there. If there's someone sick, I need to know that. If all is well, then we'll go ahead with what we have to do, or reschedule if I have to, if somebody is sick or stuff like that.
Right. Awesome. Is there any other questions before we call it a day?
Yep, if there's no more questions, my contact information is there. And as I said, as it comes closer to inspection time, we're still about probably a month or 2 or 3 away for that. They just need to contact their certifying bodies. There's lots of certifying bodies around in Canada. It's important that guys do their homework on which certifying bodies that they want to work with. And yeah.
I see we've got a hand up, so I'm just going to unmute him, and I'll let him ask his question here, possibly.
Sure.
Nope, that's not right. Try that. Okay, you've got to unmute yourself, Melvin. See if it works. Oh, there we go.
I'm sorry, I raised my hand by mistake.
Oops, sorry, one more thing I gotta fix. There we go. Okay, try that. Ask your question again.
No, it's not working.
Marianne, did you hear the question?
No, I didn't hear that. I heard him for a while, and now I don't hear him anymore.
Okay. Melvin, would you ask your question? Can't hear you. Oh, you're very quiet. That's the problem.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, you're good.
I'm sorry. I really apologize. I did that by mistake.
Oh.
Fair enough.
Sorry about that.
Oh, that's all good. Does anybody else have any questions before we go?
Oh.
Okay, that looks like that's it for our webinar today. Thank you everybody for tuning in and sticking with us through our technical difficulties. There should be a survey that pops up when you close this webinar window. If you guys don't mind fill that out, that would be amazing. Since we're new to doing all of this webinar stuff, we are looking for all of your input. And we'll see what we can do to make these happen a little smoother next time. So
maybe a few words about next week's webinar. So we are really excited to have Martin Nance coming next week, 12 o'clock. So guys, tune in. And so he's going to talk on organic no-till, which is really the main keynote speaker, let's say, for this series. So really looking forward to have Martin.
Yeah, so tune in next week and hopefully our technology will work with us a little bit better and we'll hear from Martin Nance. Other than that, have a great weekend, everybody, and stay safe out there.
Thanks. Thanks, everyone.
Take care.